Hey guys, Raid Shadow Legends. Welcome to the video. Sending some love, some positive vibes your way, especially if you need them out there today. So this is going to be a little bit different type of video here that I'm going to upload. Normally we just do champion guides. There's hundreds and hundreds of them. And I already have existing champion guides on Kael, Elhain, Galek, and Athel, which I'll link for you guys if you want a dedicated video towards your starting champion in the description below. But here it is in 2025. There's a bunch of new players still downloading Raid. And I thought I would update things just talking about the fundamentals. What is most important when gearing any of these champions? Well, artifacts and masteries and blessing will be the topic in today's video. So I want to go through all four of the starters, kind of give a very, very rough overview for new players out there. There's also a big free-to-play series thanks to Hades right now. So a lot of players kind of starting over for the first time in a long time. So I wanted to give an updated guide. And if you are a brand new player and you downloaded on your phone or on your PC and you didn't use a download link, stop, delete, and re-download using my download link because I can get you a free legendary champion in Elhain. I don't even have her on this account because it's an older account, but she'll be free for you guys. And then after level 15, you'll get your hands on Ugo. So a free Elhain and a free Ugo, excuse me, is pretty dang good. I have guides already on both of these champions as well. And then I'm looking for Ugo under legendary. She's an epic, but she's kind of like a legendary in disguise. And then you want to go, if you're on a new account, you want to go to promo codes and type in Monkey King. There's a lot of promo codes for new players out there. Monkey King is definitely the best. It's going to give you Sun Wukong. So you start with 2 legendaries and Ugo after level 15, as well as your starting champion. Now, I think in terms of starting champions, I think that Kael is still the best, right? But there's others who are kind of close. We're going to talk a little bit about each of these 4 champions, especially if you're new to the game, and why I think that Kael is still the best, and maybe some alternatives, especially if you're starting a new account and you want to try starting the game with somebody else. So Kael has a single target hitter on his A1, which is not ideal, especially when compared to Athel, in Elhain. She has a 2-time hitter potentially, but he does bring a poison on his A1. On his A2 ability, it's an AoE with turn meter fill. And then on the A3, it's a big version of poison on a quadruple hitter on a 4-turn cooldown when you book him out. Poison's very good. A lot of Kael's damage is going to come from the poisons. Depending on how you build him, most of his damage is going to end up coming from the poisons. Thus, accuracy is one of the most important stats on your Kael, okay? Accuracy, we'll talk about how to get that and how to gear so that we're emphasizing accuracy, making sure that we have enough in just a moment. The other starting champions, really quickly though, let me talk about what they bring to the table. Elhain, she's all about the AoE attacks. She's just a nuker. Elhain is my 3rd favorite of the starters, but she's still very competent in terms of AoE damage. In terms of sheer AoE damage against wave content in the game, she is the best of the starters because she has an AoE on the A2 and an AoE 2-time hitter on the A3 on a 3-turn cooldown. She also has, as I mentioned, a chance for a double hitter on the A1 ability, the Keen Shot, if the attack is critical. The cool thing on Elhain is she does not need accuracy. She's the only of the starting champions that doesn't need accuracy in her kit. You can just focus on crit rate and crit damage and attack on her. Athel is my 2nd favorite of the starting champions. She's very, very good. I underrated her in the beginning of my raid journey back in the day. She has a triple hitter with the big version of Weaken at 100% land rate on her A1. That makes her have one of the most powerful base abilities on Strike Down out of any rare champion inside the entire game. It's really her and maybe Coulthard. There's no one else in competition. The big version of Weaken is 25% extra damage, whoever has the Weaken debuff. So against bosses, it is so incredibly valuable. For that reason, I think you can make a case that Athel ages better than even Kael into the mid-game of Raid Shadow Legends. She's very good. She's also a very good campaign farmer because she has an AoE on a 3-turn cooldown, but she has an extra turn ability. Extra turn abilities in this game are great because when your champion gets an immediate extra turn, it reduces the cooldown of their other skills that have cooldowns. This is called the cooldown here on the 3 turns. So let's put it this way. You open up a battle and you start out with a Divine Blades. And then you go in on her next turn to gains an extra turn on her higher blessing. Well, that allows you to get back to the Divine Blades in 2 turns instead of 3, because that extra turn will reduce the cooldown of the A2. Thus, she can pull off a lot of AoEs, and she's going to be, in between those AoEs, landing the big version of Weaken. And she brings some of her own buffs, increase attack, so you don't need to rely on that from somebody else on the team. Athel is very, very, very good and underrated by a lot of players out there. But Kael, he's just going to help you out with those poisons so much in the early game, because poison can be hard to find in the beginning of raid. So I'd still go Kael over her, but that doesn't mean you can't have a lot of success with Athel. My 4th favorite is Galek. Galek gets a bad rap, and he's not awful compared to a lot of rares in the game. However, he's pretty basic, and his best ability is the Curse Blade, bringing the decreased defense. Decreased defense is similar to Weaken. It's going to get you a lot of extra damage, but it does require accuracy, right? So it reduces the target's defense, thus your nukers will do more damage to them. So he needs accuracy, but it's a 4-time at random ability, and it's on a 5-turn cooldown. The higher the cooldown, the less desirable the skill is. And a 4-time at random is not the same as attack all enemies. Thus, because of his Curse Blade, arguably his best ability, his A2 isn't bad either, being on such a high cooldown and at random, and it requires accuracy, he's generally considered to be the worst of the 4. So on Galek, he does bring his own increased speed, which is nice, and Hellraiser does hit pretty hard compared to the other nukes out there. But as this game has aged, you can find nukes like everywhere, right? Nukers will be a dime a dozen in this game, so I think that Galek is a little bit less special than he was way back in the day. So I would go Galek last, but he does, again, require accuracy. Let's talk about how to gear out all of these champions. And I want to start out again. This is my old free-to-play account. I haven't touched it in, a year. So the gear is pretty realistic as to what you can probably expect after a week or so of playing, just depending on how hard you grind this game. Some players might be able to get there in a couple days. Some players might take a couple weeks. But this is kind of a realistic gear set for an early game Kael. Now, this build is going to apply also to Athel and to Galek. All the 3 champions that require accuracy. So let's talk about the basics here. You'll notice I have a level 12 shield. We want to prioritize leveling the gauntlet, the chest piece, and the boots before we necessarily worry about maxing everything level-wise at the top, because this is where we can get our percentage stats, right? At the top, the weapon's always going to be attack flat stat. HP flat stat on the helmet. Shield, defense, flat stat, right? Whereas on the gauntlets, we can have all kinds of stats. We can have attack percentage, which we don't want to use. That's an early player trap, putting attack percentage on gauntlets. That's typically only for bomb champions in this game. Instead, we want to focus on getting all of our damage dealers. That means all 4 of our starting champions. This is important. We want to get them to 100% critical rate, right? Even more than attack, even more than any other stat except for maybe accuracy and speed. Those are the 3 big ones. We want to focus on crit rate, okay? The easiest way to get crit rate on your champions is finding critical rate on the gauntlets, on the gloves, okay? So that's going to be a big goal for you guys. In terms of substats, we'd love to see speed. Speed is everything in Raid Shadow Legends. So again, crit rate, if you take anything from this video, on all 4 of the champions, critical rate, 100%, and speed as much as we can get. To that end, we need speed on the boots. The only artifact in this game that you can get speed as a main stat, we talked about the main stats of every other, piece so far. The only artifact is the boots. It's pretty intuitive, right? They're wearing them on their feet. You can run faster. So speed on boots. Remember that. Super, super important. As you get to the end game, anything's possible. You can go attack or defense percentage on boots. There's all sorts of crazy builds in the end game. But for the early game, the mid game, and most end game builds, we want to go with speed on the boots. You can't kill your enemies. You can't revive your allies. You can't heal your allies or do anything in this game if you don't get turns. And you don't get turns if you're not fast enough. The enemy will outspeed you, okay? So speed on boots, critical rate on your gauntlets, And then when it comes to the chess piece, I have defense percentage. It's really not my favorite. Ideally, I'd have HP percentage. In this game, generally speaking, hit points are a bit better than defense, right? There's all kinds of exceptions again. This is broadly speaking here. On defense-based damage dealers, we want a lot of defense. So that would be a very big exception to that rule. But generally speaking, you know, for any other nuker, for any damage dealer, for any support champion, we want to prioritize HP, right? Get as much as humanly possible. We don't want to totally ignore defense, but HP is king in terms of survivability. Now, a lot of new players build their Kaels and attack flat stat or attack percentage, or for that matter, their Athels or their Elhains or their Galeks, right? Again, this applies to all the starting champions so far. We want to go with attack, or we want to go with HP percentage, defense percentage, or attack percentage. When would we go defense or HP versus attack? The first thing, the golden rule of Raid Shadow Legends is we need to keep our champions alive. So that's up to you and your account to decide. If they're staying alive, we can kind of migrate the HP over to the attack. Attack will lead to a little bit extra damage, but as we said, on Kael, most of his damage is already coming from his poisons in a lot of situations, especially against bosses. Attack would benefit Kael in a situation like campaign farming, right? He's going to be your campaign farmer. By the way, I have a whole long video outlining a complete strategy guide for new players in 2025 in Raid Shadow Legends that I'll also link for you guys and a few other videos too, just so you have a bunch of guide content if you want to go ahead and watch further. I don't want to get too detailed or granular in this specific video. But as I said, survivability is first because these champions are no good to you if they're dead. And then you can go for damage. So in this case, I'm going defense percentage because my favorite set for Kael in the early game is going to be lifesteal. Lifesteal, speed, accuracy. Those are three great sets for Kael. They're three great sets for Athel. They're three great sets for Galek. Elhain, you can run lifesteal, but you don't need the accuracy. You can go offense set. You can go, cruel set if you're farming your clan boss already, right? But on Elhain, let me just see if I have her on this account. I have Dark Elhain. Do I not have normal Elhain? I guess I don't. Do I have any of the Athel? No, I don't. How about Galek? No, I don't. Either way, guys, it's all going to be the same principles apply. Elhain, you don't need accuracies. You can just go all out attack, nukage, and, survivability. But all the other three, we want accuracy, we want survivability, we want critical rate. For the same reason, I'm going HP on my ring, right? These accessories you unlock as you ascend your champion through the potion dungeons, right? You want crit damage on the amulet. You generally want HP and then attack if they're staying alive when you're trying to min-max your damage on the ring. So HP or attack on the ring, and then crit damage on the amulet. We're looking for accuracy on the substat. Very good source of accuracy in this game are on your amulet substats. You can't get accuracy as a substat on your ring, and you can't get accuracy as a substat on your banner, but you can get accuracy as a substat on your amulet, okay? And then on your banner, which you get at 6-star totally awakened champions, right? Totally ascended champions, rather. You can have accuracy. Accuracy, main stat banner, is going to be imperative on Kael and Elhain, on Kael, on Galek, and Athel. On Elhain, you can go HP for survivability or attack for more damage. Just like we said on the ring for everybody else, that also applies to the banner on Elhain. But the other three champions, Kael especially, you want to go with accuracy as your main stat. We need to land those poisons, okay? So again, most importantly, accuracy on the banner, speed on the boots, crit damage on the gauntlets, and survivability or attack percentage on the chest. Sets, lifesteal as a 4 set, accuracy or speed as 2 sets. You can get 3 speed sets or 3 accuracy, or you can mix and match. Generally for accuracy, total stats here on Kael, we want typically around 10 points of accuracy per stage of a dungeon that we're farming. So if we're farming Dragon stage 15, we want 150. I like to go even a little bit higher than that if I can, points of accuracy, okay? So we have 210 accuracy, we have 103 crit rate, we have 199 speed, and we have a little survivability on him as well. Let's talk about Blessing. We don't have him awakened right now on our account, but Phantom Touch. For all 4 of these champions, I think that Phantom Touch is going to be the best blessing for them. Phantom Touch is going to get more damage based on their attack. It's nice extra damage, and it's going to parlay beautifully with our tier 6 mastery. So Phantom Touch is going to be my favorite blessing for all these champions. Masteries. Let's take a quick look. So Masteries, this is a great mastery build for Kael, Galek, and Athel, right? We're going to come down the left-hand side. We're going to end up with War Master. It's going to parlay, again, beautifully with our Phantom Touch when we do, if we're lucky enough to get these champions awakened at some point. But, you know, even without blessings, it's going to be fine. We're still going to go with War Master, right? War Master is going to be great, especially against bosses with high HP. It's going to proc a lot of additional damage. It's going to help you out tremendously. And you want to prioritize getting masteries, even if it costs you 800 gems for all of your starters. I typically encourage players to use 800 gems. It's expensive, but save up your gems and invest in your first champion's masteries using gems, okay? Then it will be easier for all the other champions after that. We want to go with all the accuracy masteries on the support side as well. That's going to help you get those accuracy thresholds that we spoke about. So swarms, pinpoint accuracy, charge focus, swarm smiter, and then we want to get down and get master hexer. That's going to extend the duration of Kael's poisons. It's going to extend the duration potentially of Athel's weaken, of Galek's decreased defense, okay? So Master Hexer is going to be fantastic as well. On Athel and on Galek, they bring their own buffs. So you could come down with Cycle of Magic on them and then go to Lasting Gifts. Lasting Gifts is kind of like the opposite or the inverse of Master Hexer. Instead of extending debuffs, we have a chance of extending buffs. And again, Athel has her own increased attack and increased defense. Galek has his own increased speed. So that's something that you can consider on those 2 champions as well. All right, so let me go ahead and does, I think Elhain has, let me check real quick here. Elhain has an increased crit rate as well. So you could make a case you might be able to extend that. Speaking of crit rate, I will say one thing. These champions have abilities that have an extra 15% chance of inflicting a critical hit, but it's not necessarily all of their abilities. If you have a champion with an extra 15% chance of inflicting a critical hit, then obviously you only have to build their crit rate to 85%. The problem is that's not going to be the case for all of their skills. Thus, I still encourage you to build them to 100% crit rate, okay? So guys, I'm going to leave you with 4 important links in the description below of this video. Maybe 5. The download link that I mentioned, right? The 2025 Beginner's Guide. And then I'm going to link another 4 links. This is going to be hellhades.com. Hellhades.com is the best Raid Shadow Legends website out there. They're going to have a robust champion guide on every champion in the game. So I'm going to link you the guide for Kael, for Elhain, for Athel, and for Galek, right? All of these guides will tell you all the key areas you can use these champions and where they're best, such as Kael in Clan Boss. And they'll also tell you the multipliers of their skills, basically how hard they're hitting. They're going to give you different variations of ways that you can build their masteries depending on where you want to use them, and a lot more. And that's going to be the same, again, for all of these champions. This is Athel, for example. They're going to show you key areas. They're also going to give you a little write-up on all of these champions. So this is going to be perfect for you guys to go back to, bookmark the website, and have a bunch of different options depending on how you want to use these champions as you scale them into the mid-game of Raid Shadow Legends. So guys, I hope that helps you out. You're going to be relying on these champions heavily, especially Kael. He's going to be your campaign farmer, all of these champions likely, in addition to your clan boss killer and your dungeon killer, your dragon killer, okay? So guys, thank you for watching till the end of this video. Much love, and as always, take care, guys.